And now Ms. Hartzler from Missouri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this very important hearing. Like many of my colleagues, I would add and say that this is probably one of the highest priorities and needs in my district in rural Missouri, is that we have to get rural broadband. But as we have heard here in Congress over the years, we have been investing in this program for years. There are multiple programs with multiple funding streams, different speeds, different requirements, and I think it is, and it would behoove us to have a time of analysis and making smart investments going forward, rather than just quickly passing another funding bill. And I really appreciate the comments from you, Ms. Robinson, about the first step should be to receive the information from the FCC Data Act, the Broadband Data Act. And could you talk about that a little bit, about why it's so important that we determine really where the needs are first before we act and establish a new program?
Thank you for your question, Congressman. We can't begin to solve a problem unless we understand the extent of the problem. And from our perspective, getting clear guidance around what exactly is the scope of the problem we're trying to get our arms around is a condition precedent, or at least needs to be done in parallel as Congress and policymakers consider funding options. And so for us, we know that there are gaps based on Microsoft's own usage data, which we have, which is publicly available, where we look at the speeds at which our services are being downloaded, and see that there's a considerable gap between what the FCC's numbers suggest and what our data, and not just our data, but other data sources like Broadband now suggest that the scope of the problem is. And so doing that work has to happen quickly, and should happen at least at minimum in parallel with any consideration and all considerations about how to solve the problem from a deployment standpoint, in terms of getting the necessary resources to once and for all close the divide.
Sure, thank you so much. So in the 2018 Farm Bill, I led the initiative to increase the standard of service rural Americans should receive through the USDA Farm Bill broadband programs, and making sure that they have 25 download and 3 upload in the speed. Yet we have heard, and we have the current program, the Reconnect program, only has 10 and 1 requirements. And yet, Mr. Johnson, you had shared that you think going forward we actually need 100, and 100 should be the standard. And I agree with the chairman that we should let the Reconnect program pilot expire and fully fund the program that we authorized in the 2018 bill, which has higher speeds. But Mr. Johnson, could you just once again reiterate what you think the standard should be, and why you think it should be 100 now, not 25 and 3?
The standard is 25.3 with heavy usage, multiple. We ran our household during the shutdown in the pandemic, 4 Zooms going on at once, and I never saw a spinning circle. And that's in a 1 gigabit household, granted. I believe in a 100 megabit household, you'll have the same standard applied. These are fiber-based technologies, and other technologies have not been proven to be able to carry this amount, this load and demand on the networks.
Thank you. And being a CEO of a rural electric cooperative, I wanted to switch gears and ask you to share a little bit about the importance of the ability to refinance your RUS loans. And you may or may not have those loans, but I know a lot of rural electric cooperatives in my district do. And I've co-sponsoring a bill that during this pandemic would allow rural electric cooperatives to refinance those loans and take advantage of that lower interest rate, and to waive the fee for the refinancing, because we know many of our rural electric cooperatives have lost service. It has been expensive for them. And so if this passes and you have that ability, do you think co-ops could perhaps use that additional revenue not only to make up their losses, perhaps have more capital to be able to invest in rural broadband?
Absolutely. There are, as we know, there are 200 broadband cooperatives operating broadband systems now, are deploying them and 100 more looking at it, the feasibility of these projects would be pushed forward with the opportunity to reprice outstanding debt so that new capital would be freed up.
Thank
So
you
yes,
so
that would
much.
be very beneficial.
Thank you. I yield back. Appreciate it.